The share of Chinese-built EVs in the European Union rose from 3.5% in 2020 to 27% in the second quarter of 2024. Specifically, though, Chinese car brands increased from 1.9% to 14.1% during the exact same period. So, instead of taxing Chinese EVs, Europe might just set a minimum price, which might sound to some of you good, some of you may think that's just a really crappy idea, but here's why I think they're doing it. So a minimum price might be marketed as a way to prevent dumping, so basically just China dump all of their cars to heavily disrupt the industry in Europe. But the truth is, I think it could also be a way to artificially inflate prices and protect legacy European brands like Volkswagen, Renault, companies like Stellantis, for example, that own a range of brands. These companies often have higher production costs and slower innovation cycles compared to Chinese rivals like BYD or SAIC. Obviously, SAIC is state-owned in China. By raising the floor price, they avoid having to compete with a sub €20,000 electric vehicle such as the BYD Seagull, for example, which is basically far more compelling in terms of value and what you get. It's also from BYD, which is a brand that people want to buy from these days. So I think it keeps competition out by design. That's the nature of this, which helps automakers, but kind of hurts consumers because we basically all have to pay more for an entry-level electric vehicle. So should we want that as European consumers? I'm not sure what you'll all think about it. Let me know in the comments below. But I think it's better than tariffs, actually. And I think for good reason. I think it creates a more stable environment for us as consumers and automakers themselves to operate in. I think it makes things just more stable, and we're not starting to walk down a very rocky path. We've arrived at a half decent compromise, I think, when we do that sort of thing. And that kind of avoids a massive trade war. I hate saying trade war on the internet, I really do, but we kind of do. I mean, it's obviously provocative when you tax 48% on SAIC vehicles that arrive into the European Union. That's a bit provocative. You may say the door was opened when they said that to a trade war. So today I wanted to kind of break down this huge policy shift in Europe that really could reshape how electric vehicles are priced and sold across the continent in Europe. The European Union is obviously moving away from heavy tariffs. They're considering something else, a minimum pricing deal with China. What does that mean, though? And how will that affect Chinese automakers and European buyers? I just think that's a really interesting thing to talk about. So that's the main point of the video today. So hello, folks. I'm Ben Alexander here. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate your time. I don't take it for granted. I really don't. I'm just wondering how many of you are in Brisbane. Could you let me know in the comments if you're in or around the east coast of Australia, kind of near Brisbane area, I guess, in the comments. Maybe near Melbourne as well, actually. I'm not sure. I'll be in Melbourne later this year and also Brisbane, so maybe we could do a meetup. That'd be really interesting. If there's at least a few people that want to do that, that'd be really quite fun, I think. I'll very probably be going to the Melbourne electric vehicle show. The original tariff plan. So in 2023, the European Union opened an anti-subsidy investigation, which was perhaps more transparent than a wine glass and frankly laughable, into Chinese electric vehicles, citing state support as a major concern. Chinese brands had seen explosive growth, obviously, in Europe, and BYD alone, for example, in 2023 exported 240,000 electric vehicles worldwide, around 20,000 of those going to the European Union. That got a lot better, by the way. That went up, I think, 45% the year after, I think it was. So the proposed European Union tariffs included 17.4% on BYD, 20% on Geely, 38.1% on SAIC, which is on top of course, the 10% import duty that was already in place. So it's on top of that. So that would mean 48% on state-owned SAIC vehicles, like MG, for example. I think, personally, the cost of electric vehicles in the UK and Europe, they're just too expensive. I think for what they should be, I think they should be lower. And I think Australia really does show how it could be lower. So the next video, I think, or one of the next couple of videos, is going to be a comparison talking about Norway, continental Europe, UK, Australia, how much it cost on road to buy an electric vehicle in those places, because it's an interesting thing actually, and the Europe is not doing that well, I don't think. So just for comparison's sake, that's the reason I'm going to do that. And I think it's shocking, to say the least. So no pun intended, by the way. European brands like Renault and Volkswagen argued that this was needed to ensure fair competition. Germany shipped over 18 billion euros worth of vehicles to China in 2023, warned that retaliatory tariffs could crush export sales, which I think obviously we were all saying at the time, live, in real time, as it happened, that was going to happen. So China basically just threatened countermeasures targeting luxury brands like Mercedes and BMW. They love those cars in China, frankly. I've been to China, and I can say for sure there are lots of them. And yeah, there are a lot of Chinese banned exports from Germany. They're going literally to China. Some of them are made in China as well. So this was, of course, what we were talking about. It's obvious that that was going to be the next move. China is willing to negotiate minimum prices because basically it buys them access to Europe, which is 730 million people, something like that, without a full-on fight. I think this is the most clear sign that the European Union know they're in a bad place with regards to the uptake of EVs and where the EVs are coming from, because basically we're heading toward, by the end of this year, 35% of electric vehicles in Europe are going to be from China, basically. Minimum pricing allows Chinese brands to keep on selling cars in Europe, but at a price that doesn't destroy local competition. So, for example, the European Union mandates that €22,000 minimum for small EVs would close the gap between, say, for example, a €17,000 BYD Seagull and a €25,000 Renault Twingo. That's definitely true, but I think there are two things at play. One, it's a very big diplomatic tool, a more diplomatic tool than tariffs. And the other one is, I think this would kind of stop Chinese companies just setting up factories in Europe and then sidestepping the rules of import tax, that sort of stuff. Maybe that's why they're doing this. So basically, in Europe, the minimum price for all European electric vehicles is just €20,000, for example. That would just be a way to do that, so that they can't just build the cars in Europe and then still sell them for €17,000, €16,000. Maybe that's what they're doing, because it is a very clever thing to do. German automakers back this approach as well, because it secures them access to the Chinese market whilst protecting the European market as well. The bigger picture stuff. So Chinese EV exports surged 70% year on year into 2023, reaching 1.2 million vehicles globally. In the first quarter of 2024, over 50,000 Chinese vehicles were registered in the European Union, 45% increase, by the way, on quarter one last year, or 2023, sorry. European manufacturers still lagging majorly. Stellantis actually sold a lot less. They sold 130,000 electric vehicles globally in all of 2023 across all of their brands, of which there are many, which is not really great, I don't think. And if you look at cars like the Renault 5 EV, it's not exactly cheap. It's not exactly the best value for money when you compare it to a Dolphin, for example, or a Seagull, something like that, especially a Seagull. So without intervention, projections show that Chinese EVs are going to make up over 35% of European Union EV sales by 2026. By the end of this year. A price floor gives European firms time to scale production, reduce battery costs, and compete on technology. They get barely any support from the European Union when compared to China and the support that companies such as BYD have received. So it's a political compromise. Maintain industrial strategy, delay some consumer savings. I think that's what's going on. So the European Union is walking a tightrope, I think, trying to support its own EV industry without pushing China away. A minimum pricing model might be the middle ground. That's what I believe it is. But it could also keep some of the cheapest electric vehicles out of reach for some buyers in the short term, anyway, in the next few years. But I think things will change probably in the next 24 months, roughly, for a few reasons. Let me know if you can guess them. Should the European Union protect its industries, even if it means fewer affordable EVs for drivers, considering that it's already quite expensive to buy a car, actually, in Europe? I don't think they should make it more difficult to buy one. If you want a base model MG4, for example, with a 51 kilowatt hour battery, in the UK, Queensland, Australia, or in Holland in euros on the road after all the subsidies and taxes and stuff, it's 31,000 euros in the UK, 21,000 euros in Queensland, Australia, 29,000 euros in Holland. I just don't think they should make it more expensive. Australia, obviously, that's a good example of what I think it should cost. That's what it is. Loads of people in Australia now enjoying electric cars and, lots of them are driving around. It generally, I would say, smells cleaner in Australia. I remember going there years ago thinking you could smell fumes and diesel. A lot less of that, actually, in space of, say, 10 years. A lot less, actually. So thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. Any comments, just put below in the video. And any questions, you're welcome to email me. That's also okay. There are a couple of Facebook groups. I'll put the Facebook groups for the BYD Seagull or Dolphin Mini in the UK, for example, in the description. And there's also a private group for the Facebook for the Charge Show. So if you want to join that, you're welcome to join that and talk and have a chat. And thank you for watching. Have at it in the comments. Thank you.